medical trip to the U.S. Seydou Agongo breaks silence on Heritage Bank collapse and BOG's Cocoa trial. Suspect's ex-BOG governor was forced to nail him. Okay. Questionable dealings and new minerals fund managers raise concerns. 1.5 billion Ghana cedi moved around banks. $10 million dished out to another strange company. Upon marking cries over 412 cholera cases in a Hutu Parliament summons health minister.
So it seems like a lot of headlines on one newspaper.
Plenty.
So you probably need to take your time to go through those.
Plenty.
All right. What are the Ghanaian Times? What is it saying?
So Ghanaian Times says regions elect reps to Council of State as some centers record chaotic scenes. And then President inaugurates task force to release 120-day promise. And Ghana's corruption perception index drops from 43 to 42 in 2024.
Moving on to the publisher.
ICOMS makes trade facilitation seamless. This is the GRA. Uniformed men invade Kent's house as persecution of Akufo-Addo's men begin. BCM accuses businesswoman of property seizure. Health minister to brief MPs on cholera outbreak, and Mahama terminates appointments after December 7.
The Accra Times.
African speakers taken to task, address transnational challenges, grabbing of state properties, looters will be punished, Mahama vows after receiving oral report. And then you have La MP calling for more girls in STEM, Zaneto bemoans cybercrime in Ghana, and illegal lottery operations. Ewuku calls for stricter measures, proposes amendment to the NLA Act.
Let me bring you headlines from the news center. Armed soldiers, police raid Ofori-Atta's house. Though government knew he is abroad on medical treatment. This is on page 2. I think it's very similar to a story on a different headline. ICOMS made trade facilitation seamless. This is also on the news center's front page. If you go to the same paper, Ghana-China trade hit $11.84 billion in 2024. Meanwhile, Heritage Man, CTFM, ChannelOne pay critical on Gamanche, and GPHA pledges cooperation with any probe into corruption allegations.
The Informer oral report, recover loot with interest. This is Domelevo's proposal. Our win chiefs on warpath, unleash local gods on MP over Galamsey. Forged last will and testament of the late Alhaji Salih Abdullahi. AG takes over case. Ghana leads Africa with Baumia's Momo initiative. Healthcare providers alarmed over surge in mental cases. Bernard.
All right. What about the custodian? The Africa headlines.
So custodian says Akufo-Addo Bawumia pay tribute to Sam Njuma. The late Dr. Sam Njuma is the founding president of Namibia. Minority flays Mahama over scandalous withdrawals of criminal cases. Confirmed. Oral committee based to $21 billion loot on rumors. Government to license Okada riders. And these are the big stories. That's
all right, let me take you online. citynewsroom.com. Council of State must do more, not just advise the president. Alhaji Mumuni is speaking. Also, Julius Bekbenya to replace David Asamoah as acting ECG MD. Meanwhile, a FIA MP is accusing the majority caucus of not committed to promoting government business in parliament. Kwachio Fosu is justifying revocation of last-minute public service appointments. Meanwhile, Seydou Agongo says, I did no wrong in fertilizer procurement for cocoa board. And then we're told Ghana must rethink foreign aid dependence, Professor assuming on USAID withdrawal. Meanwhile, new appointments as well. Kwesi Afrebaini has been appointed Senate Director General. And then, I do not seek re-election as youth organizer. This is Ofori-Atta speaking. If you go to ChannelOne, there's a lot on Seydou Agongo's interview. Why charge me twice? Seydou Agongo on Kokobot trial. He also says Godfrey Dame was directed to jail us in that no holds barred interview with Umaru Sanda on Face to Face. Other stories, Ofori-Atta's residence raided. This story is everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Council of State elections winners announced so far. We'll give you the highlights, especially of a 32-year-old man who's won the seat for the Western region. 32-year-old Maxwell Boachi is now the rep from the Western region. Meanwhile, Ghana drops in corruption perception index. GII calls for urgent reforms. And then traditional leader accused of killing military officer at Kasoa denied bail. So watch that story. My Joy Online is talking about this 32-year-old. He says it's about experience, not age, says Council of State nominee Gabriel Tanko.
Okay.
And then, as we have been told, Mahama directs finance minister to bridge $156 million USAID financing gap. More females living with HIV and AIDS in Bono region. This is the HIV coordinator saying this. And then Parliament needs divine intervention to deal with disorder among MPs. Alban Bagbin. Meanwhile, we're told that 2024 ECG audit reveals 5.3 billion CD in underdeclared revenue. ECG matter. A lot of issues. Let's get into the details.
Bernard, let me start with the ECG one actually.
Right.
So 2024 ECG audit reviews 5.3 billion Ghana cedi in underdeclared revenue. A comprehensive 2024 audit of ECG conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC has uncovered a 5.3 billion revenue discrepancy. According to PwC report, ECG continued to underdeclare revenues to the regulator. In 2024, it underdeclared revenues by 5.3 billion Ghana cedis. Its accounts showed it collected 15.8 billion cedis, but it told the regulator it collected 10.4 billion. Even though ECG significantly underdeclared revenues, it still didn't pay value chain players properly based on what it declared and the cash waterfall mechanism, the report noted. It added that out of the 10.4 billion Ghana cedi declared, it paid 6.5 billion cedis, leaving a variance of 3.9 billion cedis. Now, the report further reviews that a vendor contracted by ECG to collect revenues on its behalf received a staggering 402 million Ghana cedis in commissions, nearly as much as the Volta River Authority, which was paid 412 million Ghana cedis, and significantly more than Bui Authority or Bui Power, which received 323 million. Notably, this vendor was paid before the entities responsible for power generation. Now, according to the report, despite the IMF's conditions mandating a single collection account, ECG maintained 99 bank accounts across 19 banks in 2024.
Meanwhile, we are told that Julius Kpekpenya, an engineer, has been nominated to act as ECG MD. So, City News has gathered from reliable sources that engineer Julius Kpekpenya, barring any last-minute changes, will be appointed as acting MD of ECG. He served as Director of Engineering at ECG before transitioning to the Millennium Development Authority. Now, if confirmed, he faces significant challenge in revitalizing the company whose financials we just read. And we're told that since September last year, David Asamoah has been serving as acting MD following the resignation of Samuel Dubik Mahama. Now, before assuming this role, Mr. Asamoah was Deputy MD in charge of commercial services. So keep an eye on this story. Now, before you come to the Ofori-Atta house raid story, since we are on the issue of appointments, let me just give you two more. Kwesi Afrebani has been appointed SNIT DG. So President Mahama has appointed Kwesi Afrebani as new DG, with Adam Sule taking over as Deputy DG in charge of operations and benefits. Yesterday, the former leadership led by Kofi Bosompimo Safumafo were asked to leave. Now, so Kwame Edu Dako, Juliana Kpedekpo and Nana Sewa Bonsu were all asked to leave, basically following the removal of Dr. John Ofori-Atta in 2024 April. Of course, we are now told that there isn't a lot said about this new person, except his name. All right, so we'll probably have to find out more. But there's one here that quite a number of us know. President has also named Michael Harry Yamson as administrator of the DACF. So he is to bring strategic leadership and financial oversight to the fund, ensuring effective resource allocation and management to support local governance and development initiatives across the country. Now, he's a management consultant, business strategist with 3 decades in various fields. We've interviewed him a few times on this show. He was a managing partner at Ismail Yamson and Associates, son of Ismail Yamson. And then he's also done a couple of things, worked at Unilever in the past, and then worked in the FMCG market. Now, let's come to this raid story that the Herald is pointing fingers at the special prosecutor.
It says the Herald's investigations into the raid on the home of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta have revealed that the operation was conducted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor led by William Kisi Ejabing. Family sources disclosed that the OSP had earlier written to Mr. Ofori-Atta summoning him to appear before them on Monday, February 10 for an ongoing investigation. However, lawyers from Minka Premo and Co., a prominent Accra-based law firm representing the former minister, responded that Mr. Ofori-Atta was out of town on a medical trip to the U.S. Now, led by the respected Justice Kusi Minka Premo, his legal team assured the OSP of their client's willingness to cooperate with investigators upon return. Now, the hospital later furnished the OSP with details of his medical appointment. Despite this, the former minister's family was shocked when a team comprising 4 soldiers, 4 police officers, and several plainclothes individuals identifying themselves as OSP operatives stormed his residence and conducted a search. Eyewitnesses report that the team entered the premises, forcefully pushing aside the private security guards at the house. Now, a housemaid named Agi was also reportedly shoved aside as the team searched various parts of the house, including Mr. Ofori-Atta's bedroom.
So what were they looking for?
They left without carrying any documents or valuables, leading to speculation that the operatives suspected the ex-minister was hiding something. Meanwhile, the family sources suspect that Mr. Ajabing is on a vendetta against Mr. Ofori-Atta, with whom he had some disagreements over some vehicle procurements, including bulletproof cars. Bernard.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this story. It's a developing one. Now, still on issues around governance. Kwachu Fosu justifies revocation of last-minute public service appointments. This story is on citynewsroom.com. It says the Minister of State for Government Communications has accused the previous Akufo-Addo administration of bypassing due process in making last-minute public service appointments. According to him, a thorough review of the appointment process revealed multiple irregularities, with many of those appointed in the final days of the administration failing to submit formal application letters to the institutions where they were employed. He further alleged that some individuals were recruited without undergoing interviews to assess their suitability, while others did not complete the required medical exam. Now, he was speaking on Eyewitness News yesterday in giving some more details on why Chief of Staff Julius Debra had revoked all public service appointments and recruitments made after December 7. Now, a confidential letter seen by City News has been circulated to all heads of government institutions, instructing them to comply with the directive. So here's a quote. Some government agencies, ministries and departments were feverishly employing people in the dying minutes of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. We expressed concern about this because we knew it was going to have an impact on our fiscal position, especially at a time where the country was struggling. And so he's basically justifying the decision by the Chief of Staff to revoke these appointments. Coming back to you.
So my age mate is the Western Regional Council of States.
Is that your age?
Representative? Yes. So Maxwell Boache is a gold dealer, and he has been elected as the Western Region's representative to the Council of State after securing 17 out of 28 votes in a keenly contested election. Now 9 candidates vied for the prestigious advisory position, but Mr. Boache emerged victorious, defeating strong contenders, including a candidate reportedly backed by the NDC. So Boache's victory means he will serve as the Western Region's voice on the Council of State, an important constitutional body that advises the president on national issues. His role will include offering counsel on governance, policy direction, and regional development matters. He's probably the youngest to serve on the Council of State,
and
32.
It is an interesting development. Now, we have the full list of the elected here on citynewsroom.com. So we have a number of people here. For example, we have the 32-year-old gold dealer who is representing the Western region, and then we have a former he's a former many things actually. So former running mate to Professor Mills, and former minister for various positions. He's representing the Northern region. Upper East is represented by P. Adiale Ditundini Ayagitam III.
Thank you.
And we also have the Upper West represented by Michael Kwame Mumuni, Savannah by Tingawura Abdul Seidu Samson, Oti by Richard Kings Atikbu, Volta by Gabriel Kwame Gatanko, Eastern by Evelyn Krang, Western by the gentleman you mentioned, Greater Accra by Nenedrolo Boso Adamate. So a lot of these people happen to be traditional leaders of some kind. Bono is Dr. Kusi Boachi Yadom. The Northeast has no winner declared yet. Bono East is Pimanpim Yao Cabrese the Fifth, also a traditional leader. We are waiting for the results for Ashanti, Ahafo Central, and Western. And Central. Western North is Michael Edu, who won 18 out of the 18 votes. The Ashanti vote was marred by...
Yeah, and the police are hunting for the thugs who disrupted the Council of State election there. And the story says the Ghana Police Service has launched a manhunt for thugs who stormed the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council, disrupting the Council of State's regional elections in Kumasi on Tuesday. Eyewitnesses reported that the attackers forcefully entered the venue, overturned tables, destroyed ballot boxes, and scattered voting materials, forcing Electoral Commission officials to suspend the process. The chaos is believed to have been sparked by the unexpected defeat of National Democratic Congress candidate Yao Owusu Obimpe, who was widely tipped to win. Now, aggrieved supporters allegedly instigated the violence, demanding a review of the results. In a
why
statement,
won't the police arrest these people, and why
they are now on a manhunt?
Why? We saw some of the scenes on videos. These people need to be arrested. It's becoming too much. You know, the Ashanti Regional Minister must be up and doing. He's now been appointed. He's in charge of the RegSec. He must work with the police to arrest these miscreants. And the NDC must disown these people.
Quickly.
All right? If you don't disown them, it means you support what they are doing.
That's true.
How can you go and disrupt an election in the name of our candidate did not win? In 2025.
Improper.
2-3 weeks ago or a month ago, we said there was no real government because it was a transition. Now there's a full government in place. This nonsense has to stop. Now, a couple of stories. Sid Wagongo is unhappy. He's alleging that Godfrey Dame, the immediate past Attorney General, was directed to jail him, and then he also said he was charged twice. So there's a lot of things he said in that interview with Sanda Umaru on Face to Face. He claimed that the former AG, despite lacking sufficient evidence, was pressured by state authorities to prosecute him. He asserted that his trial was politically motivated rather than based on concrete evidence. Why destroy me without having the full facts of the case? When it comes to our system, he was supposed to be a Minister of Justice. It means that you need to give us fairness. But I think Dame was directed to nail us. This is what I think. He went on to say a few other things. You can watch the full interview on YouTube, on ChannelOne's YouTube page. Now, I want to come back to you before I get into some social stories on health and education.
So the speaker is speaking here. He says some voice inside the parliament.
What does he say? Where is he talking?
There may be something inside parliament
that
has to be exorcised. Our Speaker of Parliament, Albert Bagman, has emphasized the need for special prayer session to be held inside the parliamentary chamber, suggesting that an unseen force may be influencing the characteristics.
This is a serious story. Stop joking. So where was he talking?
No, so in a video shared by Joy News on X on Tuesday, February 11, 2025, Bagman expressed concern.
Okay, this was at the prayer breakfast. In fact, yesterday on Point Blank, we played the full video. To be fair, he actually was talking about leadership and the need to set examples. He says that a lot of what we see today is what the youth of yesterday did. So I thought that was a very interesting speech. And then he called on MPs to be minded that they are examples for the youth in the way they behave. Then he also said that Parliament needs to be divine intervention to deal with disorder. So this is the problem with headlines. So he said a lot more than the headlines seem to suggest. Now, more females are living with HIV and AIDS in the Bono region, according to the HIV coordinator. This is a GNA story. It says the female population of persons living with HIV/AIDS in the Bono region outnumbers the male. Statistics from the Ghana Health Service have indicated. Now, for September last year, out of a total of 11,401 people living with the disease in the region, an inordinately high percentage of 8,481.
8,000.
That's close to 80% were women, and 2,727 were males. Mr. Emmanuel Obinhine, the Bono Regional HIV Coordinator of the Ghana Health Service, who disclosed this, added, however, that all people living with HIV/AIDS were on treatment. All right. Now, why is this important? Some of the treatment for HIV/AIDS also depend on USAID support. The president of Ghana has directed his finance minister to look for the $156 million that will be the finance gap occasioned by President Trump's decision to freeze some USAID expenditures. And the president, in a statement or a letter or direction to his Minister of Finance, asked him to, as a matter of urgency, look for the $156 million to bridge the financing gap. Indeed, the story is here. It just says, President has asked the Finance Minister to Forson to immediately find solutions to the gaps in the country's health sector funding following the suspension of USAID assistance. In a letter addressed to the minister, the president called for urgent action as the situation is likely to affect Ghana's efforts in addressing issues as maternal health, HIV/AIDS, family planning, and child health. And the question is, Why have we been depending on USAID for these very important things? So this is a wake-up call. Let's move forward.
Ghana's corruption perception index drops from 43 to 42 in 2024. Abigail Ano is writing for Ghanaian Times that Ghana's performance on the global corruption perception index has further dropped from 43 to 42 in the 2024 rankings released by Transparency International. CPI scores and ranks countries by their perceived levels of public sector corruption as assessed by experts on a scale of 0 to 100. Ghana has scored 42 out of a clean score of 100 in the CPI 2024 ranking, 80th out of 180 countries and territories assessed in this year's report released by Transparency International. Mary Ada is here and she bemoans the development.
Thank you very much, Caleb. That's all we have time for the newspaper review. Coming up next is the City Business News. Please stay with us.
This is the City Breakfast Show. The city's